Hi guys, how will and how should the European Union respond to Donald Trump's tariffs? Now, in the past, the Commission focused its response on targeted areas in order to apply political pressure to sectors that would harm politicians and political parties, either forcing a U-turn or a return to the negotiating table. This time, however, may be different, as it seems Donald Trump is not interested in acting in any other way than being a bully. So the Commission President Ursula von der Leyen laid out here some of the ways Europe may respond.
In the past 80 years, trade between the European Union and the United States has created millions of jobs. Consumers across the Atlantic have benefited from reduced prices. Businesses have benefited from huge opportunities, leading to unprecedented growth and prosperity. And at the same time, we know that the global trading system has serious deficiencies. I agree with President Trump that others are taking unfair advantage of the current rules, and I'm ready to support any efforts to make the global trading system fit for the realities of the global economy. But I also want to be clear. Reaching for tariffs as your first and last tool will not fix it. This is why from the outset we have always been ready to negotiate with the United States to remove the remaining barriers to transatlantic trade. At the same time, we are prepared to respond. We are already finalizing the first package of countermeasures in response to tariffs on steel. And we are now preparing for further countermeasures to protect our interests and our businesses if negotiations fail. We will also be watching closely what indirect effects these tariffs could have, because we cannot absorb global overcapacity, nor will we accept dumping on our markets. As Europeans, we will always promote and defend our interests and our values, and we will always stand up for Europe.
Okay, so I think what we're going to see going forward is a three-prong approach. One is negotiations, the other is sanctions in some form, tariffs in some form, and then finally divergence from the US. So I think there's going to be a lot of pressure within the European Union to negotiate some deal with Trump. Ireland is extremely concerned about losing out its massive gains it's made over the last number of decades as a result of being a bridge between the US and Europe. Other countries in Europe who trade in foodstuffs, for example, with the United States are concerned about a loss of trade there. So I think there's going to be a huge amount of pressure applied to the Commission to negotiate. But the problem is you can't negotiate with Donald Trump. He's not interested in a negotiation. He just wants to force some sort of settlement. He wants to force American goods on the European market. He doesn't care about the consequences. So a negotiation is a dead end as far as I'm concerned. Now, the other approach is sanctions or tariffs directed at, for example, soybeans, which is going to harm US farmers who will put pressure on the United States government. But I think that's gone as well, because Republican politicians are either not listening to their constituents or they're too afraid to confront Donald Trump because he's acting like a dictator, and his second in command, Elon Musk, can apply massive amounts of pressure, primary these individuals, and they risk losing their jobs. So they're caught between a rock and a hard place. And I don't think we're operating under normal circumstances or normal parameters. So the final one, of course, is divergence from the US. The EU has already been reaching out to different countries around the world, trying to speed up trade deals and agreements to finalize those as soon as possible. Probably not in either's interest, but it's better than trying to draw something out, allow it to be drawn out and not have some sort of deal in place. So I think this is what we're going to see. We're going to see countries around the world And we're already seeing agreements taking place between South Korea, Japan, and China, and Canada and the EU with some South American countries as well. So I think this is what we're going to see. The European Commission's response, of course, first will be to attempt to negotiate, try and do some sort of deal with Trump. I don't see that working. These targeted tariffs that they will impose on the US, I don't see that working either. And I think finally they'll realize, look, the only way forward is to work with other people, work with other countries around the world that we can view as reliable partners. And then perhaps sometime in the future, we can return to the United States when, well, the lunatics are no longer in charge. So I think this is going to be the approach moving forward within the European Commission. And I think European countries will have to jump on board that too.